And now, Rate That Album, Season 3, with Paul Muad'Dib and Joe Fremming. Two guys who know stuff.
Hi, and welcome to Rate That Album, the back and forth podcast review about musical albums with myself, Paul Muad'Dib, and my good friend Joe Fremming. Joe, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right, Paul. And I realized today, driving around, that the name of our podcast doesn't make any sense.
I've been thinking about that the last couple episodes because we don't actually rate the album, right?
Yeah. It's like we've been doing this for 2 years, and it just dawned on me like we never actually rate the albums, but we're in too deep to change it. So
I kind of thought it was a running joke of the thing. Like, we say we're going to rate the album, but we never do at this point.
We're not that clever, Paul.
We can pretend that we are, but now we can't because we're doing this on air.
Oh.
But yes, that has hit me. I think maybe we'll introduce at some point, like I'll come up with a ridiculous scale, like, you know, how many Nick Cages. So, Joe, before we begin with this week's review, we took time off. We had a comment on Facebook and actually gained a subscriber. And I believe it's because of this. So I'm going to read you what this person said. Then I'm going to let you respond, and I'm going to tell you how I responded. Does that sound fair?
Did you respond to them on Facebook, or
I was on. This is on YouTube, and I responded to them on.
You said Facebook, Paul.
I'm sorry.
Your story's already shaky.
My story's
it's
already
a shaky story.
Yeah. No, it's on the YouTube. I'm sorry, not
Okay,
Facebook.
did you respond on YouTube?
I did. I did respond.
This is going to be your response.
Yes. Nope. I already responded on YouTube.
Okay.
So, you haven't seen it, but I'm going to let you know what it was. So, they said, I listened to your review of the album, and this was the last album we did of Aaron Lewis, and wonder if you listened to the same music I was listening to. I think it's safe to say that his politics sort of ruined it for both of you, and your comments reflected a personal animosity to him because of this. I hate his politics too, but like John Lennon, I don't listen to music for political posturing. I listen to music because of the voice, the lyrics, and the musical arrangement. If you think these songs are boring and derivative, that's your opinion. But to lament with a straight face that cliches are being used in country music makes me wonder if you've ever listened to that genre of music. This album was meant to be an acoustic experience like his shows. It is meant to be simple, direct, and personal. That's what it did successfully, in my opinion. I found the entire beta bitch boy go see a therapist argument to be offensive and unnecessary. Sounds like mega BS to me. The dude can sing and write in an age where most artists, that's in quote, can't and won't even try to express themselves honestly. I hope your next album review is fair to the next artist. I did enjoy the rapport that you have with each other. That was the comment.
Okay.
And what is your response?
It's their opinion. I think it's fair that they thought that. And yeah, but the cliche in country music, I recognize it's there. I just think it went overboard, But again, this is like a lot of there's some hyperbole in our podcast because we're trying to also entertain a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it's perfectly fair. I think that's perfectly legitimate criticism.
Joe, this is why you and I are friends, buddy. This what I said was, and responded, fair criticism. It is sometimes hard to separate the art from the artist. However, politics aside, we did find the music itself very boring and stale in our opinions. Lyrical content is always up for discussion and is trying to convey what the artist is putting out there. And we really stand by that the lyrics didn't feel genuine and emotional. Instead, they felt manufactured and manipulative to the audience. However, we completely appreciate you listening to the podcast, having your own opinions on the albums, and engaging with us here in the comments. We will keep that in mind going forward when it comes to artist bias. And yes, Joe, you're 100% right. There is hyperbole. There are jokes being thrown out there. There is an entertainment value to this, right? And I have to say, I bring this up because we do have a lot of listeners that don't come to the YouTube. They listen via RSS, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, that type of thing. So they don't see this. But I have to say this restored my faith in humanity a little bit, because you always hear people, like, I have to admit, when I see comments, I always get that apprehensive, like, fuck, like, son of a bitch. So when I see something like this that's articulate, fair, and very well written without, I think, disdain, I'm all for it. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and again, music is also subjective. Lewis just didn't do it for me. And we kind of brought it up with Stained wasn't our thing either. So, like, it was pretty much, he didn't really have a chance on that musically anyway. But yeah, if you enjoy it, I'm glad you enjoy it. And I'm glad you expressed your thoughts on it. And I think your criticisms of our criticisms are legit. We do have biases sometimes going in. It's hard, but we're also an opinionated podcast, so we're not objective. So we're going to go in with some biases no matter what on everything we review. But I appreciate the comment, and well written, well thought out, and I hope you enjoy. At least you enjoy. Hopefully, you'll enjoy another podcast of ours. Hopefully, try the Hank 3 one. We really dug into the country on that.
We did. Yeah. And we'll go around. There's a lot of different things. Like, there's genres that I want to do that we haven't gotten yet. We haven't done mumble rap. I do want to do mumble rap. There's a lot of genres that we haven't done. We haven't really done a great bluegrass album. I want to do a bluegrass album. So there's things we're going to get to. I know it. And speaking of getting the things, we're finally getting to a genre, neo soul, Joe, with Maxwell. What did you think, or what do you know of today's album, Maxwell's Now? What was your experience with Maxwell? He came out, he kind of got big around the time we were in high school.
I really don't know anything about Maxwell. I remember seeing the album at stores, but I never listened to it. I know he did an interesting cover of Nine Inch Nails' Closer.
Yes.
I shared that with you. That was interesting. I love when record companies and record industry and reviewers add another descriptor to a genre of music. So we got this neo soul and neo funk, which I don't even know what that means. Like, sometimes, like, I can wrap my head around, like, say proto punk. So I'll think the Stooges and stuff like that.
Yep. Neo
soul and neo funk, which this has been described. I don't know what that means. To me, it's just soul and funk.
So it was coined by Kedar Massenberg during the late 90s to market and describe that style of soul that was really big in the late 90s, early 2000s. And that's really, I think, there's actually comments in my notes. I'm like, this sounds like a lot of the soul and R&B that came out in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Very much of the time, except... and this is where it's different for me, is the production.
Yes.
Gets really awesome because it gets weird. That's not what you heard a lot in the smooth R&B kind of stuff. And again, I'm adding a descriptor to that you were just complaining about. That I was just complaining. Like, I'm full of contradictions, Paul. But it very much has that smooth R&B, but it goes in these weird spots that I loved. But we'll get into it in the review. This was another, This Mortal Coil for me, where I loved the music, and it was the vocals again. I didn't dislike him as much as This Mortal Coil. I think he's a very talented singer, but as we get into the songs, his approach to choruses are non-existent, and they blend into the song, so they sound like verses. And that was my main sticking point. And another sticking point, too, which is rubbed off on me because of you, jerk, is the repeating lyrics.
That's on my notes for this as well, sir. Yeah,
Yeah. So, but yeah, I didn't really know much about Maxwell besides the Nine Inch Nails cover. I didn't know anybody who really listened to him, but that's not surprising. We grew up in the whitest city in the world, so I didn't know anybody who really listened to funk and R&B.
What's interesting is I did listen to Maxwell. And the reason why was actually because of MTV's Unplugged. I loved his Unplugged performance, and that came out in '97. And I was kind of all in on that album, the Maxwell's Urban Hang Suite and Embrya. I missed now because by that time I was it changed so much. So yes, I did listen to Maxwell. So I will tell you a little bit about him. He's awesome, actually. He's won 3 Grammy Awards. He's won 6 Soul Train Music Awards, 2 NAACP Image Awards. He's the recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award by the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation and Congressional Black Caucus in 2019 for his innovative contributions to the music industry as a singer, songwriter, and producer. His album Black Summer Nights with the capital Black, which is part of a trilogy he's working on, and I'll explain that, was nominated for 6 Grammy Awards, including Song of the Year, won Best R&B Album, Best Male R&B Vocal Performance. It's interesting to me. He's really one of those like award-winning guys, but he's on nobody's radar. And I really think that's a shame. Because there is some really, really great stuff in Maxwell's repertoire. So he is currently working on this called Black Summer Nights trilogy. I'm confused because I've been kind of waiting for the third part. It was supposed to come out last year, and like the last news I saw of it was back in November. And like he's touring on it, but he hasn't released it. It's super weird. But we're digging into Now, which was his third album, was released in 2001. What happened with this one was Embrya didn't get a lot of love. It got very little radio success. And so he felt more like I can open up my artistic direction at this point. Like, whatever, I'm just going to do what the fuck I want. The album is certified platinum. And Lifetime was the second single from the album. This Woman's Work is something that Maxwell does. It's staple. He does it live at like every fucking show. But we'll go on and we'll get there. So Joe, let's dig in here. Let me get your overall view. You talked a little bit about it. You did talk about it. So let's just get right in the album. Let's start with Get to Know Ya. I started last week, so you start this time.
Yeah, this was a good start to the album because I love the funk. I love when he gets funky on here. So yeah, this was the production wise and the vocals, and sometimes he does these little tweaks in the studio, it seems like, with his vocals, which I really find interesting. So yeah, this was a solid start to this album.
Yes, I have it written down. It's very Prince-like, which I'm all in on. It's got this really cool soul funk fusion thing going on, and I thought it was a great opening song. You got, the lyrics aren't entirely painful yet. They be trying to bring you flowers. You prefer your roses blue. Others trying to get in your trousers. I was just trying to get in you. I was just trying to get with you. Really, I mean, there's some good smooth stuff there.
Yeah, and yeah. So again, this is a great start to the album, but the alarm bells don't really go off for me until the next few songs. So I felt, so it starts off good and then it kind of dips for me.
We'll get there. Well, yeah, I could see kind of going where I think you're going to go, and I think we're going to have some of the same criticisms. So next is Lifetime, which was the second big single off this album.
And this is where it dips for me, Paul.
See, now what's interesting for me is I have written down here, the beginning is Stranger in Moscow. Like, it's straight up Michael Jackson. The way the drums are, everything's kind of set up. It's straight up Stranger in Moscow. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think Stranger in Moscow actually came out maybe around the same time. No, years earlier. So my timing's off on it. But that is what I have there. And then it has this interesting, sexy kind of timed rhythm and melody where it kind of flows. Musically, it's great. Mm-hmm. Lyrically, vocally, I don't mind it. I like his vocals. I can get into it. But it's the lyrics that I'm really struggling with on some of this. And
see, for me, it's the lyrics or whatever. It's the falsetto singing is always tough for me to listen to. I don't like it. It just rubs me the wrong way when people singing high falsetto. So it turned me off. And then because Lifetime, and then the next track was My Girl. Mm-hmm. I wrote my notes, like I didn't even notice the song changed.
We'll get to that. So, because was My Girl is actually a remake, but it's a remix of a song he did a couple years earlier, and I think, So,
and it's repetitive. There's a lot of repeating.
There's a lot of repeating. Again, musically though, and instrumentation and production wise, this song's so good. And I kind of like that falsetto if you can do it. There's people who can't and people who shouldn't. Looking at you, Coldplay. And they
well, that's just in general. They shouldn't. Coldplay shouldn't.
I will get to them at some point. We got the Snow Patrol. We'll get to them. But the point is that I think Maxwell utilizes it right. And I think he does rely on it a lot. And I really actually appreciate it when he doesn't go there. There's a lot of these songs on here where you can hear him going down. And I'm like, oh, yeah, awesome.
That's where it gets interesting for me. And that's the pocket I like. Again,
yep.
I just struggle with falsetto singing. It's just, for whatever reason, it just hurts my ears. Mm-hmm. I feel embarrassed for the singer for some reason. And I don't know why. But that's my cross to bear.
I know, and I can see it. You're not the first person to tell me that. Actually, there's quite a few of my friends that are like, God damn it, they hear that falsetto and they're like, nope, I'm out. They hear a falsetto. Lyrics, again, not that strong in this one. I can let my life pass me by. I can get down and try, work it all out this lifetime, work it all out this time. I get where he's trying to go, but there's a lot of repetition. I mean, there's not a lot of changes in this. He's saying a lot of the same shit over and over, which loses me.
It loses you, and it's billed as a chorus too. And so that's another. His choruses don't pop out
right
from the verses, so it really it just feels like these are just verses that he's just repeating instead of it being a chorus.
Instead of it switching to a hook. Now, what's interesting?
There's no hooks on this.
I mean, I did like that interesting timing where it was like the dun, 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 and then I'd go, and then it'd jump back to that. And I was like, okay, cool. And I was thinking that was going to be the chorus, but it's going on through the entire song. Still enjoyed it. I can see where this is one of those albums where it'd be like, man, if I could get an instrumental, I'd be all in.
Yeah, 100%. I love the music and the production.
So Was My Girl is actually a remixed, re-recorded version of a song that originally appeared for the film The Best Man in 1988. The original had more of a mainstream R&B sound with record scratches and shit like that. And he created this down-tempo version as he felt it was more emotionally delivered, the vocal performance, which I can get. But there's not a lot here.
Yeah, it
Right.
was again like I wrote in my notes that I didn't even realize the song changed, and I went back. It's like, oh, it kind of has a different guitar thing, and a lot of his vocal deliveries on this reminds me of the Mr. Show skit.
Yeah, you
Three
said
times
that.
1 minus 1, where she's like, "Ooh," just hitting these high notes with Bob Odenkirk going, "Damn, double damn."
Damn, double damn. Yeah, absolutely. I will say there's some things here I like. This song, I for some reason, like, you won't open up. How can you not open up wide? How could you do that to me, child, when you know I love you, girl? I would love, and I think really he would have benefited from having, like, maybe, because musically and production wise, he's great. And he has opened up as a songwriter. Like, he's done a lot better. Again, he's got fucking awards for it. But he's really struggling here. I know what he's trying to say, and it's actually, I want to hear more of it, but I want to hear it done a little more eloquently. It just feels kind of like like surface level, and you're trying to get to something deeper, and you're not going there. Instead, you're just repeating your lyrics over and over. Like, that's going to get the point across, and it's not. So next we get to Changed. My notes, I have another great beat, another great musically done, vocally a little too Prince-like.
Yeah,
like, he was really going for Prince on this one.
Yeah, and I mean, if I want to listen to Prince, I'm going to listen to Prince. I mean, that's just. And this is like more of the same for me. It was like I'm like, oh, this is getting a little nervous at this point because it's kind of like the same tempo and stuff, and like the ooh girl, yeah, and it's just like we get it, and like fuck, where's your choruses, where's your hooks? It would really make this album pop.
It would, yeah. That's missing from this album completely, and that does come later, by the way, like his later stuff. Again, let's get to what the chorus is here. Now, what you're trying to be, what you're trying to do to me, you got me catching feelings in the third degree. Now that I've changed my mind, everything was fine when you wanted to ruin my life. Now it's plain and easy to see. Now I've changed my mind. This is like, to me, there's some really back and forth breaking up. I really think he was going through some kind of on again, off again relationship while he was doing this album. Because this seems to be the real reoccurring theme of this album. It's almost like he has a really sexually intense relationship with a woman, but outside of that, everything's not going well, and it's just the sex that's keeping them together. Like, that's the vibe I get from this album.
Yeah, same here. Same here.
So next one, No One. My notes. A really nice mix of acoustic instrumentation with electronica R&B. It's a lost art. Very Prince with Vanity vibes, though. Like,
yep, I said very Prince-like on my notes.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just
it with Apollonia or with Vanity. Like, it screamed of Prince and the Revolution.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not bad, but it's just.
Do your own thing.
Feels like a pale imitation.
It does. Because, again, I like Prince, and again, we didn't really get another Prince album, but this isn't Prince enough or like that level, either matching or above. It's lower tier. It's lower tier Prince.
And again, these choruses just blend right into with the verses. So again, it's not really popping off like it should.
And I think if he had that, you could have had that Prince level. Like, if you're doing this and then had a really good chorus and a really good hook and you fucking went for it, now you got something.
Yeah,
but
now you got a stew going.
yeah, but in this one, it's just more like you put in the chicken broth and you're trying to find the other ingredients to throw in, and you're not really sure how you're making the soup. Next, for Lovers Only. Joe, what did you think of that one?
I like this one. Yeah, this was good. This has like some acoustic guitar going. different. Sonically, it's kind of going in weird directions. What I like, which I like on this album. Yeah, I really liked it, even though it's very repetitive. I liked it a lot.
Very repetitive. So I will say I did like the weirdness of it, but on my notes I expect more sexy, less banjo when it comes to a song titled For Lovers Only. That banjo in the beginning kind of threw me off a little bit. That banjo.
That's why I liked it. I love that field shit, man. That's just...
And once the song got going and it was okay, now I see where it is. But when it started kind of off with that, I was like, whoa. I also have written here, hitting my threshold on repeating lyrics. It's ever since the way you look at me, ever since the way love is not a want, love is now a need, because not just because I got nobody, this is for lovers only, yeah, this is for lovers only who are lost and lonely, ever since the day you look at me, ever since the way, no, please stop. So, yeah.
It's very repetitive, Paul. It's kind of a shocking choice from you, but all right.
Yeah. You know, I remember...
On two levels. One of the repeating lyrics, and one it's not crippling white guy music.
You fuckface. Yeah, I knew you were going to get there. Go fucking watch Cruise Control. Speed 2 Cruise Control. Temporary Night.
My second favorite song in the album.
I have Bootsy level funk. That is a good thing.
Slap bass going. Yeah. This is what I want more of.
Yeah. Yep. Nope. You and I, same boat, my friend.
Distorted guitar comes in, man. Oh, chef's kiss.
So good.
This is this is gonna make me, this and my favorite track are gonna make a playlist at some point.
Oh yeah. 1 second here. Dead air. My apologies. Okay. So there is something with this song that bothered the fuck out of me, Joe. There is a tone in this song that sounds like the vibration of my phone. So when the song was playing, I checked my phone because I think it was the vibration going off. And I'd be like, what? What? It's not the phone, it's the fucking song. One other thing, I do complain about this. Lyrically, he talks about having nasty thoughts, but the lyrical content of this album, for the most part, makes me feel like he's kind of vanilla and kind of sweet in the bedroom.
Yeah, this guy, it doesn't get weird with him.
No, I don't think it gets weird with him. Earthquake in the making. I'm gonna love you when you persist with all that shaking. What you expect me to do? It's more than just the bacon. It's something about your insides too. You know, I've been waiting.
Up in them guts, Paul.
Yeah, it gets all about getting up in them guts. And again, there is a little bit of a thing. He's like, I've been misbehaving, been thinking nasty thoughts about you. I'm sorry, baby. I never said I was an angel who could be with fine as you. Move that body, go ahead, cast that corporal spell. And if they ask me, baby, I promise not to tell. This has the beginnings of like the songwriting that we would see later with him, where he really started to find himself in the songwriting. Yeah, I mean, it's good, but again, I kind of feel like the most you're maybe going to get is a slap on the ass from this guy. Next song, Silently, Joe.
All right, Silently. Yeah, didn't care for this one. It's going back to the slow jams and falsetto singing, and not my thing, Paul. This was not my song. The chorus just blends right into the verses, so nothing pops. Nothing popped on this for me.
And again, lyrically, we got a lot of the same shit.
Silently. Tell me silently.
Don't you scream, you're my divine. Don't you scream, slowly touch you. Hear what you want, baby. Don't speak, say it in your heart. Silently. Jesus Christ, dude, come on, break it up. Yeah, I have this one. I did say it really showcases his falsetto, his vocal range, but it feels like a really average R&B song of the early 2000s.
Yeah, like it's just Yeah. It's not good. I don't.
Not good. Symptom Unknown, Joe.
This was tripped out. I like this one. This was like a trippy song.
It was.
It's ballady, but like, yeah, the production on it does those left turns that I like.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this one stood out to me. So I liked it. I like it. If it stands out and it, because a lot of, like we said with Silently, just bleh. So this kind of, when it pops out, when he makes it pop, it's really interesting.
He does. And when he sneaks Hotel California into a song, I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
If you listen to it, it's a really slowed down, but it's the same chord progression from Hotel California. Listen to it next time and you will totally hear, immediately when I listen, I'm like, that's Hotel California he's doing right there. Just really slowed down, really kind of weird, but I see what you're doing there. However, I do think it's the most lyrically deep song on the album.
Yep.
It's a very, very unique take on a breakup song. I really enjoyed it. I thought this was something really, he was tapping into something here. And again, it's weird. I do like that, taking away the Hotel California thing. That's more of a joke, but listen to it, you will hear it. You and I were supposed to grow old, but it was your symptom unknown. Blame it on things untold. You and I were supposed to grow old. Guess it was a symptom unknown. I could totally see here, he's trying to pinpoint, and this is really, really great. And I wish more music and things focus on this aspect of the breakup songs when it comes to them, is that whole, the unknown. Why didn't it work? What was that unknown thing that caused whatever to fucking shatter? And this is one of the few that I can think of great breakup songs that are looking at it from that lens. And I can really appreciate that.
Yeah, sometimes it just happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I really like that exploratory space of trying to dig deep. And I really feel that here. I could tell this was a song that meant a lot to him.
Yeah. And it shows with the production and what he's doing with it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Next, we get This Woman's Work, Joe. The second time we've heard this song.
Yeah, we're going back to little Kate Bush, huh?
Mm-hmm. Going back to little Kate Bush, Joe. What's your take on?
Again, the falsettos killed me on this one until when he lowers it. So this was I was like, oh fuck, because the falsettos were really bugging me. But then when it starts peaking, fuck, man, it peaks. It peaks, and it was brilliant. I loved that part. I just didn't like the falsetto stuff, but I mean that's just who I am, Paul.
I get it. This is a really, really, really fantastic cover.
It's hard to cover Kate Bush.
It is. There's only, in my opinion, two successful covers, and that's this, and that's Placebo's Running Up That Hill. Those are the two that I think, and both are very, very, I think, kind of different from what the originals are, and I think that's why it makes it work. You can tell Maxwell really loves this song. Loves
Kate Bush.
Yeah.
You can hear it in the way he sings and the delivery of his vocals and his production. You can really, when I was reading up on this, it was all the Prince comparisons. I was like, I'm hearing more Kate Bush than Prince.
Yeah, there's a lot
of stuff. You know what I mean? I can hear the Prince stuff, but I think that's surface level. I was getting with the vibe of the album, very Kate Bush. More Kate Bush vibe to me than Prince, but that could just be my opinion.
No, I can get it too, and I think this suffers from the same thing that the Kate Bush album, which was Maxwell's small doses. Give me one or two songs and then mix it up. But having a full album, and this is the same thing I said about the Kate Bush, and it's the same criticism. One or two, three songs, great, but you give me 12, 13 songs by the end, I'm kind of exhausted and burnt out from it. Yeah, I want something different.
Mm-hmm. I'm the same way. Yeah, I mean, I recognize the genius, but I can only sit through so much. It's the same with me and Zappa. I can only sit through so much before I'm just like, it's too much at this point.
And I can absolutely respect that as a big Zappa fan. I get it. I also love this part of the song when it's going in and then that bass slide comes in, that bass slide drop, and you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
As soon as that boom, boom, and then it just goes. Oh my God, it's seriously fantastic.
Yeah.
And then he drops the falsetto, and you can just hear him
that's
letting loose. Oh,
that's what I said when the song starts peaking, it fucking peaks. It's
goosebumps. Goosebumps, straight up. This song's been on actually a playlist of mine for a long time. Such an amazing rendition. Then we get Now at the Party, Joe.
It's my favorite song on the album.
It is interesting. Okay, explain that.
It has a very Curtis Mayfield vibe to me, and I love Curtis Mayfield. And it's done in a modern way, but if you listen to the rhythm, it sounds very much like the Superfly era.
Oh,
like
shit!
It does. Drums and beats and the rhythm. So like that just scratched all my itches, Paul. Yeah, this was mine. It's funky and it's old school plus for the time modern. Yeah, I love this. I love this track so much. This is my favorite on the album.
Awesome. Yeah, I can see that. I will say I don't think it. Maybe it was the placement of it for me. I didn't feel like it was a good ending song to the album. Should have been maybe a little bit earlier, maybe by like Get to Know Ya or Lifetime to kind of break up some of the ballads. Yeah. I think, because, but I can totally get that. And again, lyrically, now we cool, now we fine, now we good, everything is dynamite. Now in fact, y'all, we're gonna be all right tonight. Oh yeah, dude, funky. It's
not good, but like the music and the delivery of the vocals and everything like makes up for like the lyrics that are not the highest of quality.
No, but again, it's still hitting that. It's still hitting that itch, right? It's still got that Sly and the Family Stone vibe lyrically, right?
Yeah.
So I can respect that. Yeah, I think for me, I was a little harder on it because it was the last song on the album. And again, you know me, and I'm very much about, we both have this thing about musical placement where things should fall into the flow of the album. And I just didn't feel like this ended very well. It didn't end the album well compared to how everything else is. But, it's tit for tat. So that was Maxwell's Silver Hammer. No, Maxwell's Now. Joe, what would you, first of all, well, before we get to the recommendations, let's kind of talk about the receptions and what other people thought of Maxwell's Now. Again, it came out in 2001. Let me just pull it up here. God damn it. More dead air, Joe. Fill our dead air.
Oh, man, you did this. You see it. It's up to you, Paul.
It's up to me. God damn
I'm not saving you from your...
Not saving you
from your unpreparedness of our review.
Why won't
your blatant unprofessionalism, Paul? I'm not.
Save me from me, Joe. Save me from me. So people really enjoyed this album, actually. 4 out of 5, 4 out of 4. The lowest one is really 3 out of 5. A-, Entertainment Weekly, Rolling Stone, 3 out of 5. Sound and Vision, 4 out of 5. USA Today, 3 out of 4. There is a lot here. It charted. I mean, it was number 1 on the R&B hip hop billboards. It was number 1 on the US Billboard 200. It made it peaked in Australia, Dutch, France, Germany, the Norwegian, the Swedish, the fucking Swiss. This was a phenomena of an album. And one of the most tough reviews on it was from Pop Matters. Mark Anthony Neal said it was 2001's most accomplished R&B recordings, but he found some of the music unadventurous and not indicative of the artist's maturity Maxwell seemed to have shown on previous albums. And Miles Marshall Lewis of LA Weekly said he's not Prince because of the Prince references. So, but, it did really well, and it kind of set up the stage, and I think he really grew as an artist from it. So, Joe, with all that said, would you recommend Maxwell's Now?
Yeah, it's a solid album. I have my issues with it, but yeah, I think it's fantastically produced, well performed, falsetto vocals rub me the wrong way. A lot of the repeating shit rubs me the wrong way. But overall, I think it's a solid album. So yeah, I would recommend it.
Perfect. I'm in the same boat. I recommend it. Musically, production-wise, there is a lot of funk and soul on this album.
And a lot of wild left turns that I love and it's these little flourishes that he does that I just love with that. So yeah.
Understand that, as Joe said, there's two negatives going on with this album. One is more my critique, one is more your critique. Yours is the falsetto, mine is the repetitive lyrics, right?
Yep.
So if either one of those two things are a thing that like really bug you or a pet peeve, for me and for you, actually, we're both going to recommend it because the level of skill, I think, on this album and musically, production-wise, rises above those criticisms.
Exactly. I mean, production-wise and, the arrangements and all that is just, sometimes it's subtle, but it does like these, again, like we've discussed, we've been doing this for 2 years, and I think people who would know, especially with me, like when it takes these weird little subtle weird turns, fuck, I'm all in on that shit.
You and I both. Yeah, that's something that you and I really appreciate it when we think we're going to get the standards, and then we get this left turn, and we're like, holy fuck, yeah, I'm all in. I mean, Get to Know Ya, Lifetime, This Woman's Work. I know you didn't care for Lifetime, and Now at the Party, Silent Symptom Unknown.
Temporary Night.
Yep. There's some really great stuff on here. Criticisms or no, there's some really great stuff. So I'm glad we could both do this. There's a lot of people that worked on this album. Wawa Watson was on it.
List.
Yeah,
but at least they're getting credit. Like that's a thing. Like before, I forget when they started like actually recognizing session musicians, but it wasn't always just the Beatles. It wasn't always just Pink Floyd.
It wasn't always the Beach Boys. Jesus Christ.
Oh, they used the Wrecking Crew a lot.
Yeah.
There's a documentary on the Wrecking Crew. If you never heard of them, look it up. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I really think the Wrecking Crew documentary and the Shadows of Motown documentary are the two things that really started the push to get these session musicians more recognition. Now, what's really interesting is the only thing Maxwell really did on this was the drum programming, the horn arrangements, and production. That's really all he
production, did. Though, that's important because he's making those decisions on doing the flourishes. It's just maybe he just didn't know how to, so that's why you get the session musicians.
Yep, not everyone can be Beck, right? Not everyone can be Beck or Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, not everybody's Stevie Wonder.
No, and plays 15 million instruments. So, all right, Joe. Well, you have plugs this time. I know you do, goddammit.
Yeah.
So plug away, sir.
Yeah, we just released the review of Thief, Michael Mann's debut movie. We both seem to enjoy it.
Great movie. Great movie.
It's a great movie. It shows you, it's the DNA for Heat, which I love. He is just a fun.
Oh, wasn't the DNA for The Keep?
We'll talk about The Keep another time, Paul.
I'm sure we will.
It was a Tarantino podcast because him and Roger Avery do talk about The Keep, and that's wild. Like, yeah,
they're redoing it. I think we talked about that. They're redoing it.
Good luck.
Right.
Good luck. But and following that up is a movie I've never seen before, and everybody seems to think I'm crazy because I just never saw it, and that's Crank. Jason Statham movie.
Oh, yeah.
I've
seen it. Actually, you know what, Joe? I think I'm with you in that book. I don't think I've seen it from start to finish. I've seen it on like reruns and like when I'm in hotels for work and things like that. Like it's on a lot, but I've never watched it, like popped it in and watched it from start to finish.
Yeah, I've never, I remember it coming out, but I told a couple friends that are like, holy shit, that movie's fucking crazy. And I'm like, and these are people like who don't enjoy stupid action movies. So like, I kind of have to, think about it a little bit more. And then I'm like, well, how come you never said this before? And everybody said, oh, I assumed you already seen it. I'm like, all right. So I haven't seen it yet. I'll be watching that. So we'll be doing Crank.
All right. Any other plugs you want to give?
No.
Okay. Well, Joe.
God.
God, fuck. I may have a plug coming up in the next week or two. So, spoiler, not spoiler. All right, Joe. Lay it on me, brother soul man. What the fuck are we doing next week?
All right, Paul. I decided pick an album I remember enjoying when it came out by one of the biggest bands in the world that I really don't like. This album came out, and I was like, hey, this isn't too bad. And their fan base fucking seemed to hate it with the Rage of a Million Fiery Suns.
I think I know where we're going.
We're going back to the 90s, Paul.
I think I know where we're going.
We're going to go with U2's Pop.
Yeah, there's only two places I think we could have gone. Yep.
What was the other place?
It was the Weezer album.
Which one?
What the fuck was it? Pinkerton that no one liked, or was it the Green album? Which one? Fuck one?
Green album came out in 2000.
It was the one that everyone was like, what the fuck is Weezer doing?
Oh, Pinkerton, but that's a Stone Cold classic.
Yeah, yes, it was Pinkerton. I know it's a Stone Cold classic, but people hated it at the time.
Yeah, at the time, yeah. I don't know if people even have come around with Pop. I haven't heard it in a long time, but I remember really liking it and then just being like, the fans at the time were like, this is just terrible. I'm like, I guess I'm the fucking weirdo because I can't stand anything this band has ever done before.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes, there was only one single off of it, wasn't there?
There was two. Was
there two? Discotheque
and Staring at the Sun.
Oh yes. Was Discotheque the one with the Edge, where he was in the video and like they're wrapping all that shit around his head?
I don't know. It's the one where they're dressed like the Village People and they're dancing.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that and I'm like, wow, that's wild. And I'm like, we'll get into the review, but it was like, it came out at a time where I was really getting into like a lot of more electronic music. And I think the world was just not interested at that time, especially U2 fans, I guess, because they didn't seem to like it.
And I got the wrong album. I thought it was Numb. I was thinking the song Numb, and for some reason, I thought that was on Pop.
I don't know anything much about U2, Paul. So,
okay.
I said, I don't like this band, except for this one album. I'm the outlier. I am outside the bell curve, Paul.
We are going to have a lot to talk about with this one. We've danced around this story a lot. And this is now going to come. I'm going to take up I'm going to warn you ahead of time, Joe. We're going to take up a little bit of time because I have some stories revolving you two.
It's going to be a 45-minute rant about WCW, isn't it?
Well,
U2 didn't wrestle, Paul. Come on.
Bono wanted to play. Actually, Vince McMahon just came back, and now Stephanie McMahon stepped. I'm just kidding. Oh my God, I'm kidding, Joe. Don't punch me in the face.
Joe has left the chat.
No, I've hinted at it where I was in a band with a guy that was super obsessed with U2.
Okay.
And
let's talk about. We'll get to it when we do the review. Yes,
because now I can and I've danced around that story, and now we can finally get into it. So Pop, interesting. Yes, I'm excited to do this. I don't think I've listened to Pop since it came out when we were in high school.
I listened to it like maybe 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
Just because I was just like, I remember liking it, and then I played it, and I was like, yeah, I still kind of like this, but then I haven't heard it since. So we'll see. Maybe my tastes have changed, but it was the only U2 album I would actually be like, yeah, I like that. And like people would give me dirty looks.
I can understand. It was a big departure from what everyone wanted from U2 and things like that. And
they stopped. What I've seen, they kind of stopped being experimental afterwards. They just went back to the well of sounding like U2. So
they did, and really. Well, we'll get into Bono when we get into the album because there's a lot to unpack with that guy too.
Oh yeah, because we'll talk about because I don't like U2. I don't like the band. I find them absurd and whatever. We'll get into it next week, though.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into it because there's a lot here. There's a lot with you two. So, okay. All right, Joe. Well, anything else we want to discuss?
No.
Do you want to take us out?
No.
This has been Rate That Album with Paul Muad'Dib and Joe Fremming. Thank you for listening.